This is Contractor Sense with Ruth King.
Welcome to Contractor Sense. Here you discover ideas, tactics, news, and information that matters to your contracting business and you. I'm your host, Ruth King. This episode is sponsored by HVAC Trustbooks. Go to hvactrustbooks.com to discover how this tool can help you close more sales. Thank you for joining us. Here is how we will help your business and you today. Energy Star says that more than 50% of all replacements are installed improperly. What can you do to not become part of this improper installation statistic? Consider putting in Sensi Predict, a monitoring device developed by Emerson on your customer's equipment. Brian Feenie, Contractor Success Team Manager for Sensi Predict, tells you more. Okay, full disclosure, I work with Brian and the rest of the Sensi Predict team to develop the ROIs showing that the installation of this product dramatically increases revenue and your bottom line. So I'm a big supporter and big fan of Sensi Predict. So Brian, welcome to Contractor Sense.
Oh, thanks for having me, Ruth. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, pleasure to have you. I've been wanting to do this probably since we finished the ROIs, which was what, in September?
Yeah, no, this is awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. So you've been with this since pretty much the beginning, right?
Yeah, since we launched it as Sensi Predict, we're 2 years into this effort. It's a labor of love,
Yeah,
because it is part of digital transformation in an HVAC business. So when we look at adoption curves and even things as simple as smart thermostats as we see them today, it's not for everybody, but we're certainly seeing the more progressive and forward thinkers jumping on board.
yeah, and you're also probably seeing the younger guys jumping on board too, more so than the older guys.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, they grew up with it. They're used to it. We have the older generation, and I can say that because I'm in my 60s, don't generally adopt new technology easily.
That's true. That's very true.
So cool. But anyway, let's just, for those of who are listening who don't know what Sensi Predict is, give us the elevator pitch.
So think of a check engine light for your HVAC system. That's really how simple I could put it. Where when you think of a homeowner and how everyone drives a car nowadays, for the most part, most people wouldn't even think of driving their car without some type of onboard diagnostics, because they don't want to get stuck on the side of the road and have that stress of not knowing what's happening. So we're really bringing the same thing to HVAC for residential, to provide that level of transparency and peace of mind to the consumer that is all backed by data. And that's really where it levels the playing field. So if you looked at this from a perspective of our entire industry, we could almost standardize the way things are done.
We could, but we don't.
But we don't. Yeah, we don't. Why would we do that?
No, it's really interesting. One of my very first clients, I'm talking about late 80s, said to me when I was a young pup in this industry, that you can make a lot of money in this industry or you can lose your shirt. The choice is yours. It's not hard either way. And those who want to lose their shirt, they don't do things in a standardized manner, and they don't understand, never mind, P&Ls, balance sheets, and all that sort of fun stuff.
Yep.
But the reality is, the way I look at Sensi Predict, I look at it not only as a check engine light, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I also look at it as something that gives the customer peace of mind because you're constantly monitoring their system. And, if they're in a situation where they're not home most of the day, or it's a house on the beach that they only go to, a couple times a year, or they're in Michigan and they're snowbirds and they come down to Florida and, wherever for the winter and go back to Michigan, there's peace of mind. Right?
Oh, absolutely. Because the flip side of that is not knowing anything, and you have that surprise of when it's broken. And typically, when you look at a traditional HVAC business model, it's all reactive.
You're right. You're right.
You're there. You're there waiting for the phone to ring, hoping to do work. And this changes that. It almost makes it proactive to the point where you're engaging with your customer, you're providing that peace of mind, just like you said, where now it's a much different experience that the contractor has with their customer and vice versa, that, I mean, is bordering world class at that point, because it just doesn't exist today. It's because without the technology, you can't really do that. So that's interesting. You mentioned at the opening of the podcast, Ruth, about quality install, and how the EPA stat that you gave. I mean, that is just a tremendous thing. As I talk to contractors all over the country, many do not track callbacks. And,
I do.
and I know you do, and and that most, a lot of folks do not. And the amount of money that is lost without even realizing it makes your stomach hurt, because it's just such a large number. And, we've got integrations with a platform called MeasureQuick, which allows contractors to essentially benchmark that HVAC system to the point where it is completely optimized from day one. And that gets the install crew off the hook, right? Because they can complete that install and feel good that they're not getting yelled at, they're not going back on their own time to fix it. The install manager's loving it because they don't have to deal with an upset customer the next day or 2 weeks later. The manufacturers love it because less false warranty claims, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the reality is that the installation crew at the end of the job can print out the reports and say, Mrs. Jones, here, your system says it was supposed to have 36,000 BTUs. It has 35,900 and some odd BTUs. And, you have a 3-ton system, that's 3 tons. And we're showing you, and they're showing it that it works.
Yeah.
There's no gray areas at that point. It's totally black and white. And you did leave out one person or one type of individual who gets really pissed. And that is the service technician who on a Friday night at 8:00 at night has to go out to a new install.
Oh yeah. I've seen that in the business I ran, where those two different types of crews don't like each other all the time.
No, they do not.
It's as bad as putting salespeople in the room with them.
Yeah, sometimes that's very true. But, if you think about Sensi Predict, and after we come back from the break, we're going to talk about the installation. And if you don't mind, I can share a little bit of the ROIs and putting it together with some of the service and maintenance and things that we go on from there. Before we go to break, Brian, if somebody's interested in Sensi Predict, where do they go to get more information?
They can go to sensipredict.com on the Emerson site, and there's a Get Started link, and they can sign up there to get started and learn more. And then we'll get to the point of being able to help them become an authorized dealer.
Terrific. All right. When we get back, we'll continue the conversation about Sensi Predict and how it can help you generate more revenues, more profits, and less callbacks and warranty calls. Thanks for listening to Contractor Sense. We'll be right back.
Do you ever have warranty leak issues? One of Ruth King's clients did about 4 years ago. Thousands of dollars in expense and unhappy customers. She solved this problem for him though. How? With a leak letter that every customer must sign when a service technician discovers a refrigerant leak. Once they implemented the letter, there were no more warranty leak headaches. No warranty leak callbacks. Happier customers. The surprising result was more replacement sales too. To get a copy of the leak letter for free, just send Ruth an email at ruthking@hvacchannel.tv. That's ruthking@hvacchannel.tv.
You can't. That's what my daughter Kate told me when I said I wanted to make financials fun. The gauntlet was laid down. The red blanket was waved in front of the bowl. Ronan the Rubber Duck was born. This ebook is a whimsical look at financials from a duck's perspective. To get this fun, easy-to-read Kindle book, go to Amazon and search for Ronan the Rubber Duck Dives into Financials. That's RONAN, the Rubber Duck Dives into Financials. Let me know if I made financials fun for you. We're back. Thanks for listening to Contractor Sense. I'm speaking with Brian Feenie, who is the Contractor Success Team Manager for Sensi Predict. And before the break, we gave everybody pretty much an overview of Sensi Predict. And I think now we can do a deep dive in this section about how it really can help them make more money, because that's what everybody's into these days. At least I think so.
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too. So let's talk about it. There's two ways to install Sensi Predict. You can do it on a brand new replacement install, or you can do it as part of a service call, correct?
Yep, part of a service call. And we also have some folks putting that into part of their maintenance agreement program as well, where they're actually expanding their maintenance offering with smart technology like Sensi Predict.
Yeah, it was interesting because I did a webinar on Sensi Predict for the Johnstone folks out in California, and I got a question back because they wanted to include the actual cost of the monitoring device as part of maintenance. And so instead of charging them X number of dollars up front, they just put it into the monthly maintenance. And I said, sure, go ahead and do it. I mean, why not, right?
Yeah, we see that. We see a couple different models when it comes to that, and you know that too from working with us on the ROI side. And because not everyone does it the same. We at Emerson don't want to dictate how people run their business. We obviously will recommend what we see working, but there's plenty of opportunities to leverage Sensi Predict in the business. A lot of contractors get started with bundling with their new equipment installs. It's an easier way for the technicians to feel comfortable. It's an immediate value differentiator for those contractors that are selling against their competitors because they can actually prove that they do the best installs in the market. When we talk about the new install side, Ruth, with your expertise, with these callbacks we talked about before, what's the impact to the business for a callback? What's that dollar amount?
Oh, it's north of $500 for each time a callback goes back. But there's even a worser one that is not, putting in black and white. And that's a customer who's installed a new system, whose system doesn't work from day one or day 5 or whatever, puts online a very, very, very bad review because this is what happened. And you can't even measure the damage that does.
Yeah,
so,
that's got to be too big of a number that we want to count.
Yeah, I mean, I can't put that one in, but you can imagine the bad publicity that causes with their friends and family, especially if somebody else is looking for a new piece of equipment. Opposite to that, let's assume somebody does the new install. Adding Sensi Predict takes not even another 15 minutes, correct?
To a new install, it's a matter of a couple extra minutes just to get it connected to the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, so exactly. And so you're looking at Mrs. Jones here. We're proving that your system is working properly now. We're not going to be part of the 55% that Energy Star says is not installed properly. And the likelihood of a callback in that particular case is probably 0 unless a part fails on the piece of equipment. And, Murphy comes and bites all of us in the butt every once in a while.
Yep.
So, that can happen. But the likelihood of because somebody and the installation crew didn't do something is probably pretty slim to none at that point.
Absolutely. And, Ruth, you touched on, that other opportunity for Sensi Predict on a repair scenario. So knowing based on the EPA stats that half of installs are not done correctly from day one. So let's think of the 50% of systems out there that you're now seeing for the first time as a contractor. We have no idea if it was the good 50 or the bad 50%. So why not add Sensi Predict to that 8-year-old system, retro commission it, with our Measure Quick integration, give that customer the ultimate peace of mind and help them get more life out of that system. Yeah. I mean, thinking of that connection now where you could almost be in the business of helping people get more life out of their HVAC systems versus let's speed it up to death and then replace it sooner than you want to.
No. Let's make the replacement a choice of the customer. And here's what I mean by that. If we take, depending upon where you are in the country, normal lifetimes for air conditioning systems, for example, are somewhere, unless you're on the coasts, somewhere between 12 and 15 years. Or if you're in Maine, it's longer than that because you're not going to have that many run hours. But let's assume it's the average 12 to 15 years. And so you're out there, you've done your maintenances every year. Your system's now 10 or 11 years old. And the techs say, Mrs. Jones, your system's still operating fine. You've got the Sensi Predict, we're monitoring it. And manufacturers' life expectancy for this system is somewhere between 12 and 15 years. I just want to let you know so that you can start thinking about and budgeting for a new system. And two things are going to happen there. One is like customers go, okay, just thank you for the information. The other one's going to be, well, how much is a new system? And I have seen situations like this where the tech or salesperson goes out and just gives them a budget number and they say, thank you very much. And I've seen situations where they go out there, the tech gives them a number and the customer says, hell, let's just do it. And they're replacing an 11-year-old system and nobody else gets an opportunity to bid it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's, that's an interesting, and plus most of the time it's way more than they ever thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
So there's that shock too, and that stress that comes, and you hope that you're able to still stay connected to that customer, because the thing with maintenance agreements, they're all at risk, no matter what. And any way that we can try to add transparency and make that peace of mind hit on a whole new level is only going to benefit that connection. Because I've seen a range of churn go from 60% churn to your customers luckily have less churn, I've seen, so that's great. But
we did it right.
Yeah, that's right. But that's a serious thing that people should be tracking. And we can be a part of that to help, but it takes more than just some sensors.
Right. Well, it takes the service technicians doing the right thing when they go out and do maintenance. It takes realizing maintenance is the most important thing the company does. And most of them give it lip service, which is insane. But it does both of those two things. But think about it, the Sensi Predict, as with Measure Quick, I really like both together. And Jim Bergman was on the show doing a podcast. So if you go into the archives, you can see the Measure Quick podcast or listen to it. And these two working together are phenomenal. But think about it, you're monitoring the system, you're getting the alerts if there are alerts. You send them things saying it's working just fine. And you're tying the customer to you, building the brand, building the loyalty, and building the likelihood that the customer is going to renew their maintenance plan. And if they know it's being monitored and they know you're taking care of them, and they're not going to, go somewhere else where they can't get their system monitored, doesn't make sense to the customer. So those things work really, really well.
Yeah, it definitely elevates the experience. And the way I look at this, Ruth, this is really helping contractors adapt to today's consumer. That same Amazon customer, that same groceries to our doorstep consumer. I want it now and I want it right. And I want transparency. All we're doing is bringing HVAC to that level because we've traditionally had the same types of business models for the last 25 years, and there's room to grow. And I see this as being a way to help contractors do that.
And also do good things for the customer at the same time.
Yep, exactly.
Absolutely. So Brian, give us the website again one more time.
SensiPredict.com. It's part of the Emerson website. You can get there. There's a Get Started to learn more about Sensi Predict. Just follow the prompts and you can get to us pretty quickly. And we do authorize every contractor that is interested in taking that journey to become an authorized dealer. So there's some training. There's a lot of customer support from our side to the contractors. It's pretty much end-to-end solution.
Yep, absolutely. I've seen it work really well, so I'm a fan.
Awesome.
All right, Brian, thanks for being with me.
Thanks, Ruth. My pleasure.
All right. And thanks to all of you for joining us. Choose one thing that you discovered and implement it in your business. These ideas, tactics, and strategies help you make more money, have more free time, and give back. If you like today's program, spread the word. Please review this podcast on any device you're listening to it on. Help a fellow contractor make more money too. For comments or questions, call me at 770-729-0258 or email ruthking@hvacchannel.tv. Thanks for listening. Have a great and profitable day.